The Rocky Mountaineer begins its 600-mile, two-day journey by leaving Vancouver and following the course of the Fraser River. The river is named after Simon Fraser, who in 1805 was sent by the Northwest Fur Trading Company to extend their activities west of the Rockies and find a navigable waterway to the Pacific. The river enters a steep canyon and at its narrowest point reminded Fraser of the gates of hell. He wrote, "I have never seen anything to equal this country. We had to pass where no human should venture." In 1882, the Canadian Pacific Railroad dynamited its way through Hell's Gate. Today's visitors can ride the air tram that traverses the gorge. The track then follows the Thompson River through one of the driest places in Canada, and passengers spend the night at Kamloops, an ancient fur trading centre that derives its name from the Shuswap Indian word meaning the meeting of the waters. For today's travellers, this is a luxury journey with meals served in the dining car and glass-domed observation coaches allowing passengers to enjoy the scenery. However, the construction of this line a little more than a century ago was hard won with the lives of thousands of its workers. The Dominion of Canada was formed in 1867 from the 4 eastern provinces. In the same year, the United States purchased Alaska from the Russians. British Columbia was then a British colony, but there was a danger that the United States might expand into the largely unoccupied Canadian West to link up with Alaska. To persuade British Columbia to join the Dominion, the Canadian Prime Minister promised the construction of a railroad to link west with east. The Canadian Pacific Railroad began construction in 1871. From the west, using thousands of Chinese labourers, the single track was blasted through stubborn mountains and steep canyons. From the east, workers had to hack their way across the prairies in intense heat, filling in bogs as they went, and then negotiating passes through the Rockies and the Columbian Mountains. The two lines came together at Craigellachie, and the last spike was hammered in late in 1885, 6 years ahead of schedule. East of Craigellachie, the Rocky Mountaineer negotiates the Rogers Pass through the Selkirk Mountains. This range is geologically older than the Rockies and is prone to avalanches. In 1916, the 5-mile-long Connaught Tunnel replaced the original dangerous route. For a while, the train follows the Great Columbia River and then turns off into Kicking Horse Canyon. It stops briefly at Field before climbing over the Rocky Mountains to the highest point in its journey, the Continental Divide between British Columbia and Alberta. The telegraph followed the railroad, and the completion of the line advanced both the company and the Canadian economy. It opened up the Canadian West to settlement and stifled further northern expansion by the United States. By chartering ships, the Canadian Pacific Railroad carried tea and silk from Asia, thus allowing eastbound freight and extending trade across the Pacific. Land deals with the government put the company into coal, zinc, lead, gold and silver. The company became a corporate giant and expanded into building locomotives, mining, shipping, hotels, and eventually airlines. Early immigrants were sold a package that included passage on a CP ship, travel on a CP train, and land that was purchased from the company. Land was sold from as little as $2.50 an acre. The trains had sleeping facilities and a small kitchen, and the settlers could reach their destination in about a week. It was a far cry from the ordeals of the pioneers on the Oregon Trail half a century earlier. The big hill at the top of Kicking Horse Pass was the most difficult part of the route, with a steep drop forcing the railway into a gradient of 4.5%, over 4 times the recommended grade. Safety switches and runoffs had to be added, and it would require up to 4 locomotives to pull a train up the hill. Special locomotives were built that were the most powerful of their time. Some 10 years later, a new solution was found. 2 3/4 circle tunnels, each 1,000 yards long, were driven into the valley walls, allowing the train to zigzag along the sides of the valley and reduce the gradient to 2.2%. Costing $1 million, the spiral tunnels were opened in September 1909. Once over the Continental Divide and into Alberta and the Banff National Park, passengers can alight at Lake Louise or Banff itself, and the Rocky Mountaineer then completes its journey into the late evening, running down to Calgary on Alberta's high plains.